Keys to better conversation, understanding conversation types for better conversation balance. Welcome in, much love, Trav here. Back in Seattle for the holidays, visiting my family. Classic Seattle weather right now. It's cold and it's wet, but I want to share this with you. It's been burning a hole in my mind. How to have better conversation, something many of y'all don't think about, and we're gonna have some ideas in this video. Guarantee you've never thought about it. Guarantee will help you have better conversation. And the first very basic thing to think about is conversation balance. What percentage of the time are you talking? What percentage of the time is the other person talking? What percentage of the time is no one talking? You might notice that you dominate conversations once you start thinking about it. I talk 80% of the time, and 10% of the time they're listening, 10% of the time no one's talking. You will learn a lot just by paying attention to conversation balance, not just over what you're saying in person, but over text as well. Are you just totally dominating, saying everything? Now, I'm not going to say that that is wrong. It's not wrong. Sometimes it's always going to be different. Sometimes you want to say more. Sometimes you want to say less. And we're about to get into that, but that is the very first thing to be aware of. And exercise number one for today is pay attention to the balance of your conversations. Now we're going to go in more deep, more strategy. And the key here is that there's 3 conversation personality types, and they change from time to time. It depends. It's going to always be, they're mood dependent as well. So the first one is the talker, the second one is the listener, the third one is the thinker. The talker wants to talk, the listener wants to listen, the thinker wants to think. And depending on how these matchups are, the conversations are going to go very differently, and you're going to need to adjust your strategy. For instance, a talker versus a talker. If you want to talk and the other person wants to talk, you might find yourself at a balance, but you're both talking over each other, and you're both waiting for your turn to say something, and maybe it's not a very good conversation. Maybe one person is more dominant as a talker, and you talk over the other person, or you want to talk but you're not as forceful in what you're saying, and you just keep getting talked over. You say 20% of the stuff and it sucks, you don't like it. So that's something to pay attention to. Do you want to talk right now? Do you think the other person wants to talk? Talker versus a listener. This is a good situation where you want to talk and the other person wants to listen, or vice versa, and the listener can just nod along and it's great. Right? You only say 10-20%, but it's what you want anyways, so it works out pretty well. Talker versus thinker. This is something definitely to avoid. The thinker looks like a listener, but they don't want to listen, they want to think. So you need to give them time. So versus a listener, it's okay if you're talking 80% of the time, they're talking 20. But if you're a talker versus a thinker, you need to have a time where neither of you are talking and there's space. They don't necessarily want a conversation, or they want spaces in the conversation to think. So it might be like 50% you talking, 20% them talking, 30% silence, giving the thinker time to think. Other matchups, listener versus listener. That's interesting. That's when it can get awkward and no one really says anything. And maybe you shouldn't have a conversation. You should throw on a podcast, or throw on Netflix, or throw on a documentary, or go watch a show or something like that. Put on some music, right? Neither of you really want to talk, you both want to listen. Recognize that, put on some media. Listener versus thinker can be very interesting, where a listener, and we got this beeping thing up here, welcome back to the city. Listener versus a thinker. I say versus, but it's, you're working together to have an interesting conversation. Listener versus thinker. The listener might ask the thinker some very good questions, and the thinker is going to take some time to think and share some really useful stuff. Listener and thinker interactions, in my opinion, are some of the best conversations because they lead to some of the deepest insights, but that's also when you have a lot of downtime where no one says anything. And then similarly, thinker and thinker, it probably would be similar to listener and thinker, but maybe you guys should just split up and go for a walk and come back when you actually want to talk. That's the thing about being a thinker, is you don't actually necessarily even want to be in the conversation at all. So that's something to think about. So a couple things. Here's the exercise. Number 1, again, this is very basic, is pay attention to the conversation balance. Starting to shiver here. Holy shit, it's fucking cold, bruh. Number 2, exercise of the day. When you're in a conversation today, pay attention. You're in a conversation today, pay attention Do you want to be, are you a thinker right now? Are you a listener right now? Or are you a talker right now? And try to identify the person across from you, if they're a thinker, if they're a talker, if they are a listener, and think about how the matchups work and what you should do as a result. Very complex. Again, guarantee you do this, we'll take your conversation game to the next level through strategy, macro strategy. And sometimes you realize the best thing to do is not have a conversation right now, right? Or say nothing is oftentimes what the other person wants. So I hope you find that useful. Give it a thumbs up, give it a comment if you agree, and do the exercise. Again, promise it will be very useful. Free life movement, free living goals. Shout out 2017 starting with the bang. I want to help more people in more depth. If you want to be one of those people, apply for coaching down below. There's a link to that. Helped a lot of people in 2016. It's been awesome, and I want to expand in 2017. So go check it out. Much love. For everybody else, see you in the comments. See you back here tomorrow. Take care. Peace.